Hello and welcome to All Things Apostolic. My name is Kasey Sees.
And I'm Brian Williams.
And today we're going to talk about
the 6 keys of soul winning.
Hello and welcome to All Things Apostolic. My name is Kasey Sees.
And I'm Brian Williams.
And today we have with us a special guest, Pastor Billy Chapman, who is the chair of the Church Development Committee of the Worldwide Pentecostal Fellowship. Good morning, Brother Chapman. It's good to have you with us today.
An honor to be with you.
One of the things that Brother Williams and I have been talking a lot about is, a lot of times when you look at smaller churches or church plants, they're not nearly as desirable to most people as taking an existing and established church, just because of the way we view things. But it's my understanding that you pastored an established church for a while, and you actually transitioned that church over to somebody else and decided to go plant a church.
Well, yeah, that's partly true. So I pastored a church for 16 years and went back in 2021, resigned, turned that church over to someone, and then went to the Charlotte Metro, which was where I was from a child. And the church, I didn't actually start a church. I took an old church that had dwindled down to 12 people. And so it wasn't a complete startup. But it was probably 2 months away from shutting its doors, and there was no pastor, and there were just 12 old folks just keeping the bills paid, and so it took that. That was my childhood church.
And so, what propelled you to do that in your mind? What how was God speaking to you? What made you determine and make that decision to do that? Because that's the opposite step, what most people would do. But the will of God isn't always what most people will do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I have a message I preach and I talk about called jurisdiction. And it's, I believe when God gives you an area, he calls you to an area. And I still believe a man needs to be called to an area, that God gives you authority and jurisdiction. And you know that this is my territory. And there could be other men in that territory, but you have responsibility to that area. I woke up on Easter of 2021, drove into the city. I had lived in that city for 29 years, pastored 16 of those years, had a great church, a thriving congregation, but I just knew in my spirit it was no longer my city. And then when I drove into the Charlotte Metro that same day, I knew that, okay, this was the area that God had called me to, and didn't make sense. Definitely didn't make any sense logically or financially, but I knew I was in the will of God.
Brother Chapman, I guess, can you kind of talk a little bit about how you kind of got there? You just kind of mentioned it just now. You said you was there 29 years. I guess I kind of got pieces of that, but what kind of led you to where you are right now and pastoring? What got you there, and what kind of drives you?
So, I guess the whole what got me into pastoring or got me into pursuing the kingdom, I was going to be an aeronautical engineer in high school, had everything lined up for that, go to college. And in my senior year of high school, 2 of my friends were killed in car accidents. And I had not done anything to win their soul. And that weighed heavily on me. So that would have been in 1998, graduating high school. And so when I was going into my senior year in 97, I just kind of changed my whole path. I said, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do, but just teach me to be a soul winner. And so graduated high school. I stayed 7 years under my father. He had started the church that I ended up pastoring. It was a home missionary church. We went there when I was 12. And then when I was 25, he asked me to take that church. And I stayed in that city teaching Bible studies, preaching, and reaching the lost. And the church, I think our peak was in 2017. We had 281 in Sunday school, solid 200 people. The church was growing. We bought a large piece of property. We're building. And so I think that maybe that answers your question. So
Yeah, I mean, the
That's it.
soul winning thing there, you talked about that. I mean, obviously, to get where you're at, and maybe we'll give you a chance to talk about where you're at and what you're doing right now and all of that. But really, a home missions church is really built on the back of people soul winning. And so, what is there any concepts or ideas that you use about soul winning that kind of, help you
Mhm.
do this on a regular basis?
Sure. So I'm writing a book. It should be out by January. It's called Key Cutters. And Key Cutters is a strategic approach to personal evangelism. So it's big on personal evangelism. It could be also tied into the corporate evangelism for the church. But the biggest focus I find is if we can get people personally evangelizing their coworkers, their family, and how do I do that strategically? So throughout the years, I kind of developed this approach of 6 keys that whenever I meet someone, I've got to unlock the locks, and God's given me a blank key. And each key, and once I get it unlocked, I can go to the next key. So strategically in my mind, when I see Johnny or I see Sue, as soon as I see them again, I know, okay, I'm at key number 3 or I'm at key number 2. And it calms me down, realize I'm playing the long game. This is strategic. I'm not rushing this. Some people, when I meet them, they go really quick. Someone's already planted seed and watered a seed. So winning them to the Lord becomes I can go through the keys very quickly. So I can explain the keys real quick if that's what you'd like me to do, those
Yeah,
6
sure. Go
keys.
right ahead.
Yeah. So the key number 1 is to connect. Uh, when I get into the community, I want to connect to people. I want to position myself in their lives. So when we came to Gastonia, we had 12 members in the church. That was September of 2021 when I finally came full time here. We had uh, 221 in Sunday school last Sunday. And
Praise
yeah, and it's all on personal evangelism. It's personal. I push it in our church. So I tell people, you've got to connect to people. You've got to get out and you've got to touch them. You've got to connect to them in the grocery stores, in the gyms. Find places that are easy to connect. For me, the gym, like the YMCA, has been a great place to connect to people. People let their guard down. They'll talk to you. Of course, restaurants, coffee shops. My number one rule when connecting is just don't be weird. Don't over spiritualize it.
That's good.
Yeah. And second
Okay,
rule,
so can you give us an example there? You said don't be weird. Now that that can be a
okay, so let me
challenge for
explain.
certain people.
And
So
I've had a lot of
walk me
guys want to
through
hang
that.
out with me and be soul winners. And they're
Okay.
weird. They over spiritualize everything. They want to. I had one guy just tell me recently, we got to see a manifestation and we need to see a move of God go before us. I said, brother, that's not biblical. The moves of God follow us. There'll be, I believe, in glory, there'll be miracles and prophecies and words of knowledge that we never knew we gave because it followed after us. But some people,
Right.
when I say being weird, is they over spiritualize every encounter. They want to speak in tongues the first time they meet someone. I think this is what Paul was dealing with in Corinth. Like, you guys got to chill out. Um, so being weird, I think, I guess the context is people over spiritualize every encounter and they're not real. It's not, the reality is I'm not always on a spiritual high and everything I touch is, ooh, no, sometimes I just need to talk to people, connect to people. Hey, ask, how was work today, Eli? Oh man, so I get to know people. I get their phone numbers. I know things about their lives. I'm looking in that connection for them to give me consent. That's the second key is consent. And
So it's a
consent is
methodical
permission.
process. So
Go ahead.
so you're not just going by the seat of your pants. It's a methodical process you have here. So one of the things that you mentioned is you connect with people, and you mentioned right here someone by name. And so, how is it that if you're at the gym, or I think you said grocery store, and I think you said coffee shop,
Yes.
how is it that you remember the person's name and this stuff about the person? Because I know me personally, one of the hardest things for me is you meet a lot of people. How do you remember the names?
So I think it's number one, you got to find good people. Bishop Booker said something years ago. He said, good people are easy to pastor and bad people are impossible to pastor. I know that sounds so simple, but it's true. So I'm targeting good people. I'm looking for working. So lazy people won't stay saved. Let's just be honest. It takes work to
Okay, now
live in
you know
this.
what? You're digging into something here. We kind of like go with the flow here,
It's
but
fine.
I like what you're getting into because this is stuff we don't normally talk about. When you hit it there, you said the working people, and you said
Yes.
the lazy people. So when you're searching for people, you are deliberately going after a particular demographic of people that kind of fit into this thing that you're calling good people. What is that?
So it's people that are willing to get into the field of labor. So when I'm talking to, even if it's the first connection, I'll ask a guy, hey, can you help me carry this to my car? If he'll help me carry that to my car, he's a good guy. He's willing to work.
Yeah.
The first time someone comes to church, are they willing to clean or pick out the trash? Hey, could you give me a hand? But I want to find people that are working, people that love
Yeah.
family. I'm not saying
Yeah.
they're not messed up. They're going to be messed up. Drug addicts, alcoholics. I got one I'm working with right now. His name's Jeremy. He's been on cocaine for 27 years, but the dude is a hard worker. Well, that's to me, hard worker is a good person, someone that has some semblance of respect. If they don't have any type of respect in their conversation, in their verbiage, I'm not saying they
Yeah.
can't have cuss words, but like some of these military guys, that they'll cuss and they'll look at me, oh, I'm so sorry. So you can see there's something in them that says that I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You meet people that have no boundaries. They're lazy. There's not much you can do. You're throwing pearl before the swine. If they're not willing to work, they're lazy. If you got to win them with a hot dog, the devil will win them with a hamburger. So,
That's good. I like it.
so I'm just
you start
to answer your question about the names. So I narrow it down to people. I don't get everybody's name, but if I meet someone in that first meeting or second or third, I'm going to try to get their name. I'm usually pretty good about getting their name and phone number in that first meeting. I have not had hardly anyone say no. I don't carry church cards. I don't carry any identification of where I pastor. It's just, this is just me. I have my phone and I'll tell them, look, throughout the conversation, they're going to find out, oh, what do you do? Because I'll ask me, what do you do? Well, I'm a plumber. Oh, that's good. Inevitably, they're going to say, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm a pastor. But I don't have a church card with me, but I'd be glad to, could you give me your name and I'll text you a digital card or digital information. They'll give me their name, their phone number, their email address. Almost every time it's in my phone, and in my phone under occupation or a career on that line, I'll put TRC Connect. All right. And I'll make a little notation, YMCA or something of that nature. At the end of the day, I'll put in TRC Connect, look up in my contacts. It'll show me everybody that I put in as a connection. Then I can go through and add notes, text them, send them a little digital picture of my wife and I. It was so nice to meet you. Here's our service times. Look forward to meeting you again. So I put them in my phone. I have a list in my phone of names, and then I try to say their name over and over again. Every time I see them, if I don't remember their name, I'll apologize. Say, look, I don't remember your name. What's your name? Oh, it's Eli. I got a guy named Eli. I've been meeting at the gym now for a year and probably a year and a half. He runs the water treatment plant for our city. He's Puerto Rican. He doesn't go to church anywhere. His sister has cancer. These are all things that I'm getting in my head. He just recently went from a connection to a consent because I went into the gym and he said, hey, preacher, could you pray for me? Could I have a Bible study? Man, that's the key right there. He's given me permission to give him a Bible study. He's asking to come to my church. I'm not asking him. He's asking me. So I want to build a relationship with these people that they trust me enough. They're asking me for prayer. They're asking me about, hey, men and brethren, what shall we do? Does that make sense?
Now,
Yes,
is consent always verbal, or sometimes does consent? Sometimes people can give you a certain kind of consent without actually saying.
No, it's definitely a spiritual moment, and I think it can be missed. I've looked back at several times where I'm like, oh, there was that moment that I should have asked or I should have said something, and I had to go back and try to get to that moment again. No, I think there's a spiritual element to it, to know that this person they're ready and they're willing for me to speak into their life. And then once that happens, you go to the third level, and that's compel. I've got to compel them. I've got to compel them to come to church. I've got to tell them this is what you need to do. How were you baptized? Acts 19, Paul had consent on the road. He went straight into compelling. How were you baptized? So
Yeah.
the problem with this that I found is people will give us consent. A lot of times we'll miss it because it's so comfortable with them at the place of consent. They're finally like us. They finally like our church. They want to write about us in the newspaper. It's fun. I've seen entire churches stuck at level 2. I've gone to them and they haven't had anybody baptized in years or months, but the city loves them. They got block parties. They've got all this stuff they're doing. Everybody loves them, but nobody's being compelled. There's not a compelling. It takes preaching to compel them. So I got to get them to preaching. I got to get them to a church service. I got to get them to a Bible study. But I risk everything I've built up to this point once I move to a compel. Does that make sense?
Mm. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'm liking here is, so you've already walked through 2 keys, basically, and you're just now inviting them to church. So the first thing is the whole idea of connect and not having a card with you.
Yeah.
Is it puts the onus and the intentionality on you, right? Yeah. When we have a card and we give it to somebody, all the onus is on them. Are they actually going to show up? Right. Are they going to reach out? Whereas if I don't have the card and I send them a virtual card or through a text or whatever, like you're saying here, I've got their contact information. And so now it's on me to follow up. It's on me to kind of build a little bit of a connection and talk to them. But then even moving into what you call the consent stage, it's kind of like what we talked about on the first one we did, where we were talking about a lot of times when people go out on outreach, it's to hit the home run. They'll go out and, I want to pray somebody through right here. But, what you're saying is build a relationship with the individual, which is perfect because even when you look at the denominational world and you look at any research coming out of there, they'll tell you 70 to 75% of all people that walk through the door the first time is because a friend or a family member invited them. Well, if I've just talked to this person for a year and a half, and I'm building a relationship with them, after they consent, here comes an opportunity for this. And so they're more likely to come because they don't feel like they're being sold. They feel like first they've given you consent and it's from a friend. This changes the whole way you look at it.
And I also think you're hitting something I think a lot of times people miss. And you can tell you kind of have, if I don't know this for a fact, but I kind of feel like you got a little bit of a sales background somewhere. And that is you got their number. And that's a key component of a lot of times what we are missing is we will invite people to church with no way of following up with them later. But the fact that you're doing this card and you're sharing this, you're getting their phone number and you're able to reach out to them later, in a normal, not weird way, but you're doing it,
Absolutely. And people don't, like you said, it gives me power, it puts me in control.
Right.
But once they start texting back, that's consent. We're creating a dialogue here.
Right.
And so.
And you're not rushing. I noticed that too. You're not rushing.
There's no rush. And the thing is, I feel like because I've done it this way, probably the last at least 15 to 20 years now this Sunday will be 20 years pastoring. So pretty much my whole time pastoring, this has been the approach of it. I'm playing the long game. I'm being strategic. I've got a plan. I'm going out, whether this with an individual or even with community, parts of our community. There was a motorcycle club several years ago, I was like 15 years ago, who asked me to come and be a chaplain for them because I rode a motorcycle. Ended up, it was called the Blue Knights, and it was all retired law enforcement and retired military. Well, so I did that once a month. I'd go to their meetings, and then for long I had permission. They were inviting me to their funerals. I come to speak at their funerals. So with that club, I went through those 6 keys and built that relationship with them. But with individuals, once I get to that place of compelling, I'm not rushing. Then I get to, so it's consent, connect, consent, compel.
Thank you for joining us for the first 3 keys of soul winning. Join us next week for key 4, 5, and 6.